Well, welcome everybody. I'm still going to be sort of admitting people as they pop online here. I'm Tanya Andreasen. I work for One Valley Community Foundation, and I'm called the Community Engagement Manager. And I do several things for the foundation, and one of which is working with the county commissioners on
I'm not
dispersing.
hearing anything.
Oh, dispersing these ARPA funds. This grant is called the Nonprofit Vitality Grant, and we'll do a quick sort of overview of the grant guidelines and some of the details, and then we'll switch over into Q&A. I think sort of depending on how many people we get online, we might just take questions in the chat, and then also if there's sort of space and it doesn't muck things up too much, we'll have you unmute and ask your question directly. A few of you are unmuted, and I'm wondering if you could mute yourself if you're unmuted. That'd be helpful. So thanks for being here, everybody. Anna is here. Anna, maybe give a little wave. Yep, Burkholder. Anna Burkholder is our communications coordinator here at One Valley. You may see her very active on social media. She does our website work and lots of other communications work for us. So thanks for being here. We're going to dive right in. I'll share my screen. And I have a few slides that I think will get us all on the same page, and I look forward to hearing your questions after that. Here we go. Make this a little bigger. Oh, there's Sylvia. Hi, Sylvia. All right. Anna, can you let me know that you can see my main slide? Does that look right?
Yep.
Excellent. All right. So the One Valley Community Foundation has partnered with the Gallatin County Commissioners and Administration to create this grant-making process from the funds that Gallatin County received from the American Rescue Plan Act in 2021. I'm going to start off with a couple of notes about the foundation itself, and then we'll move right into talking about the nitty-gritty of the grant.
Bluetooth pairing.
Yep, again, if you're unmuted, if you could please mute
Bluetooth
yourself.
connected.
I can hear somebody connecting to Bluetooth there. So what is a community foundation? Again, a community foundation is a public charity, and generally speaking, it's focused on a single geography. And our single geography is the whole of Gallatin County. Remember, Gallatin County is shaped like a key, so it drops all the way down to West Yellowstone and extends all the way over.
Bluetooth pairing.
I'm gonna see if I can mute a couple of other people who are.
I think he just muted himself, so.
Okay, great. So next, our community foundation here at One Valley extends the definition of that traditional community foundation. And we do that in a few different ways. We activate community data, meaning we try to really make sure that community data is accessible and understandable, not just for the experts. Data is for everybody, whether that's quantitative data, numbers, or qualitative data, stories. And that information, we try to do a good job of turning that back out to you all in a variety of different ways over time. We just published our Seat at the Table report. So that was a collection, basically, of quantitative and qualitative data about housing solutions that you all from around the county produced for us. And we are turning that back around to community members, but also policymakers and decision makers. That report is available on our website. We advance inclusive civil discourse opportunities. We engage nonprofits. We know that you all, many of you all, participate in Nonprofit Cafe and lots of other programming and services from our lovely Jill Elwood. We are convening public and private partners, especially in housing solutions right now. We aim to stand up a housing coalition this fall, which will really be a convening of employers, individuals, nonprofit providers, and public sector leaders like people from our local governments. So here's our logo for the Nonprofit Vitality Grant. Let's dive in. So really, the Nonprofit Vitality Grant came from that American Rescue Plan Act in 2021. And the way that it worked, very simplistically, is that those funds were sort of dispersed out to states and counties so that they had sort of the best shot at addressing the true economic needs of the people, the community members, at local levels that needed help recovering from the pandemic. So Gallatin County got together and did some listening sessions, and they decided to allocate funds in several different ways. They dispersed some funds to United Way to support their Kids Link program. They gave some funds to Gallatin College to support workforce development and childcare. And I'm not sure the total list of how they've dispersed their funds. They received $22 million. And $500,000 of that has come to One Valley. We are turning that back around to you all to support the nonprofit sector. So here's the purpose of the funding. It's to revive or sustain Gallatin County's nonprofit sector to ensure their ongoing resiliency and efficacy as employers and provide services to our community. So think of yourselves as a sector of the economy. That's what the county commissioners were aiming for, is making sure that these funds are supporting Gallatin County's economy and the nonprofit sector in a variety of different ways as employers and providers of services are certainly a major and important, crucial segment of that, of our economy. So here is, let's see if I skipped one. Here is our eligibility requirements. And I can take questions on these things at the end, but essentially it is these verified charitable nonprofits, 501c3s and 501c19. You need to be a Gallatin County nonprofit incorporated prior to January 1st, 2020. And have experienced the negative economic impacts of the pandemic. I think if you have started the application process, you were offered an eligibility quiz. These are the questions that are asked. Those applicants that responded yes to all of those questions in the eligibility quiz were allowed to proceed, I hope. There's one person who said she couldn't, and I'm going to work with her directly, but to the application. The grant request amount range is between $10,000 and $100,000. Here is basically a timeline. Right up here is the grant webpage, and we'll pop over there when we're done with the introduction here. So basically, the application period, the grant is open right now. It closes at 5 p.m. on the 25th of May, a couple weeks from now, a little bit more. The application review process is listed in the grant guidelines, and we will hurry through that briefly once we, every time I use my cursor to admit a new person, it bumps me, so hold on, be patient with me a little bit. So then our county commissioners are the final sort of decision makers for these awards. Review committee will present them a slate. But the county commissioners themselves are the final decision makers on the awards. Those decisions will be made on or before June 24th of 2022. And we will cut checks and get those mailed out to awardees before July 1. Remember that funds awarded will need to be obligated by December 31st of this year and spent by March 1 of 2023. Here's just sort of a summary of that application review process. Staff at One Valley will just review applications for eligibility. Then a grant review committee will review all of the eligible applications and provide a slate, as I said, of recommendations to the commissioners. The commissioners will use that slate and make final decisions on awards. Here is sort of a repeat of some of those dates that will notify applicants by email of their award before June 24. Checks will be cut before July 1. And then funds obligated and spent, obligated by December 31st and spent by March 1. There are some reporting requirements associated with these federal funds. We, One Valley, need to provide the county quarterly reports. Our awardees of these funds will need to do the same. And so all awardees in their award letter will receive sort of a schedule of required reporting deadlines. A final report from awardees is due by March 1 of 2023. And although the quarterly report from One Valley is not due to the county until later that month, we're making the final report due for these funds due so that the county themselves can get their federal reporting done. So it's sort of a 3-level stage of reporting. Let's see. And then here's my contact information. I'll leave that up for a second. But really, it's just my first name, Tanya, at onevalley.org is my email address. This is also on our website and on the grant guidelines. And I'm happy to take questions throughout the grant making process. I am going to switch over to our website really quickly and just give you a quick web tour. I'm going to do a new share and pop over to our website there. Great, thanks, Anna. So this is our webpage. You go to onevalley.org and it's /nonprofit vitality. So onevalley.org/nonprofit vitality. It will take you to this webpage. You can click here to apply, but I'm going to scroll down and give a quick website tour. Here's the information about the open cycle and the webinar. We'll take this down and replace this with the recording link after today. Here's a description of the fund, how the funds came to come even to the county and then back and then down to One Valley. A little bit of a timeline, the purpose of the grant funding and some eligibility information. Here again is the process timeline for your reference. And here are some tools for downloading. You can download the grant guidelines, PDF of the application questions if you're interested in just kind of working offline. And then I actually have this blocked right now, but I think this is the budget template. Is that right, Anna?
Yes, I hope it's working. I'll make sure.
Okay. And so these are just some resources that you're welcome to download for your use. And I'm going to go into the grant guidelines in a second, but first I'm going to drop down to the FAQ here. So these are questions that we hope will be common, are that you're curious about, that we've been able to answer. So grant request amount range, etc. Here are some examples of negative economic impact. That's a required question. And so we provided some examples here, and I'm happy to take questions by email if folks have other questions. It was hard to make them all up. We don't know how all organizations have been negatively impacted. And so we did our best to provide some guidance. Same thing with what can funds be used for. Because we don't know the individual needs of every organization, we did our best to provide a list of how funds can be used. And then, let's see, this is the one that I wanted to sort of finally land on. The funding match for Big Sky nonprofits. This is some information that came in a little bit later in our grant making process development. So basically, the Yellowstone Club Community Foundation would like to match dollar for dollar any awards that are made to a Big Sky nonprofit. And I ask what exactly that means, and certainly those that are located in Big Sky are eligible. And my understanding is that nonprofits that are also primarily serving Big Sky also would qualify for that match. Additional questions about that could be directed to me, and I would connect you with Yellowstone Club Foundation directly if there are any specific questions. I'm going to share with you hold on, let me move my bar here so I can get to my, here we go. So were I to have pushed that download button for the grant guidelines, this is what I would see. So these are the nonprofit vitality grant guidelines. Everything that we've covered today is in this document. It's all sort of listed out here. One thing that I would like to note is that there's a link. Let me see if I can get down here. Under the grant award reporting requirements, there's a button, a link to the federal regulations. That's federal Treasury guidance. And I'll click these here in a second. So the direct language from the federal Treasury about these funds is listed in this pretty easy to read, I think, useful website. And same thing with this guidance here. It's number 2 CFR 200.458. Just, my goodness, it's just like a federal, it's just federal bureaucracy there. But I would recommend that all applicants click on those. And I'm going to scooch over to those as well. I have them open in my tabs. So that CFR 200.458 is about pre-award costs. I recommend reading that. It's about whether or not there are projects that are eligible for costs that have incurred before a certain stage in the federal award process. So if you are looking at closing a gap in funding that was sort of lost, that is a little bit more complicated, and I would encourage you to contact me directly. The overarching guidance I can give you is that these are operations funds. These are funds to cover operations. If you had a debt that was incurred in the past because of COVID, I think the easiest thing to do, the most clear-cut way that these funds could help an organization is to apply them to current operations needs that would allow the organization to maybe catch up on that deficit. So it's a little bit tricky, it's a little bit complicated. If you are interested in applying sort of in that vein, if your application addresses that, then I would encourage you to reach out to me directly, and we'll work with the county staff to review your case. The last link there that I encourage you to click on was the Department of the Treasury. This is basically the guidance. It's their webpage, and it shows what the final rule was on the American Rescue Plan Act. One note on here, the use of funds, the county is at liberty to spend the funds in any of these ways. If you look at the second bullet point here, respond to the far-reaching public health and negative economic impacts of the pandemic. by supporting the health of communities and helping households, small businesses, impacted industries, nonprofits, and the public sector recover from economic impacts. So they have drilled down the language for these funds to addressing nonprofits directly and specifically from the economic impacts. They're using other funds, the other 22 million, in other ways in this list, but for our purposes today, it's about the nonprofit sector recovering from economic impacts. I'm going to stop sharing and just sort of peek in the chat box here. And I'm going to, oh, go ahead.
We have one question from Mandy asking for a little bit more information about how we define negative impact.
Yep. Okay. So let's see, in the grant guidelines, I think I'll just share my screen again because that is easier. Now pop into Chrome and scoot my bar. I'm working on a tiny little laptop, so thanks for your patience. In the grant guidelines, we did our best to guess at, from what we've been hearing from nonprofits, what their negative economic impacts might be. And so Mandy and others, we produced this list here in the grant guidelines. I would encourage you to read through this. If you have other questions, that extend beyond this list, or it doesn't give you enough guidance, certainly reach out.
Next question is, the guidelines say that these funds are for assistance to small nonprofits. How is that defined?
I asked that as well, and a large nonprofit might have sort of international reach, or a national reach. Mostly the nonprofits that we work with and know here in Gallatin County are considered a small nonprofit. If you have questions about your eligibility, please again email me.
Okay, I need to go look at that then.
Anybody else have a question? Anything else in the chat, Anna?
I'm not seeing anything.
Okay. I think that we have kind of a manageable number. If you want to, Anna, is it easier to do the hand raise? Either raise your hand or unmute yourself if you have questions, and we'll try to get through them.
I don't think I can see the hand raised, so I would just say speak up.
All right. Candida, do you have a question?
No, sorry.
Well, that's okay. That's okay. All I can see is mute or unmute, so no problem at all.
Seeing one, is there a specific number of grants that One Valley will be awarding, or is that TBD?
It really is to be determined, and we thought hard about the grant range. 10,000 to 100,000. That could mean, a few less than 10 larger grants, or it could mean many smaller. I think we just really need to look at what comes in. And, as I said, the staff, me included, will review for eligibility, but it really is about the group of people on the grant review committee. And we'll select those people to be representative of our county's whole geography, and hopefully a diversity of, people throughout our county who are willing to volunteer their time, but that can really sort of use their own professional and personal expertise to review and produce a slate of recommendations. So TBD is the best answer I can give you. No problem. Any other questions while we're together?
It's here.
My email address again is tanya@onevalley.org. And I'm certainly happy to email or even take a phone call with anybody if something comes up.
We just got one more. Can an example of the reporting that will be required be made available?
Yes. Yes, it can be. I am using the same basically template for my county reporting. It's not onerous. I don't have that formatted and done yet, which is why I don't have it up. But examples of what an awardee would be asked to report would include, let's see, sort of hours spent on the work, if there's staff time that will be paid for by some of the funds, purchases made. It's pretty basic. And then the budget template is a pretty simple, just a table. Travel, that kind of thing. But yes, I can work on that. Let's see, who asked that? Oh, Tia. So I think what I could do is probably say, I'm taking a little bit of time off to be with family later this week. I think I could say that I could have it up on the website by a week from today. That's next Tuesday. That's probably the best I can do with that.
That's
All right.
great. Thank you so much.
No problem. All right, I'm going to say last call on questions. If anybody has any questions that come to mind after this, keep in mind that I'm traveling tomorrow and out of the office Thursday, Friday. But if you, I'll put in my auto reply Bridget's email, and you're welcome to ask her questions as well. And I'll certainly mind my email until Thursday and then pick it up on Monday again. Ooh, thanks. I see a good job on Give Big Note, so thank you. We're all a little sleepy, tired, thus a little bit of time off this week, but thanks to all of you all as well. We hope that it was a good experience.
Also, quick note on that, if anyone has photos, email them to me, Anna@onevalley.org.
All right, thanks so much all, and I look forward to seeing you all around the community.